is that the sound of an ambulance taking the police to the doctor so they can get a workers' comp claim? This is an amazing story, by the way. It's Free Speech Friday, the 27th day of March, 800-222-KABC. Two-thirds of LA City firefighters, 60% of police officers filed for an on-the-job injury claim in the last 3 years. Nearly half of those employees filed more than one claim. They receive 100% of salary tax-free for up to a year while off work recovering from injuries. And only a small percentage of the claims were attributed to injury suffering while actually fighting a fire or confronting combative suspects. And a fire captain was on leave 18 times, at least 18 times, including extended absences after hurting himself playing handball, basketball, racquetball at the fire station at LAX. And between 2009 and 2013, he collected $242,500 tax-free dollars while out recovering from claims. To talk to us about this, by the way, injuries up 35%, workers' comp claims up 35% over the last 5 years to $141 million in 2014. To talk to us about this, the man behind the audit is the city controller, Ron Galperin. Good morning, Mr. Galperin.
Good morning.
Appreciate you coming on. Yeah, thanks for coming on with us, Ron. Appreciate it. So there's a million questions about this. For starters, why is certainly if somebody gets hurt in the legitimate performance of their duties, by all means, we have an obligation to take care of that. And I don't have a problem with 100% of salary. But why is it tax-free? It seems to me that it creates an actual incentive to get injured.
Well, there's actually a perverse incentive that exists, and that is a state law incentive that exists, one that is in place, and one that I don't know that we're necessarily going to change. But we sought to focus in our audit on what are the things that are within the power of the city to, in fact, change. And so what we focused on was prevention, accountability, better use of data, and using those to really reduce the amount of injuries and reduce the amount of claims and, of course, reduce the costs.
Well, okay, so we've got that from Sacramento, and then there's the other issue that claims are up 35%, or damages, workers' compensation costs, up 35% over the last 5 years. What is it about the last 5 years? Has all of a sudden work gotten more dangerous in the last 5 years?
Well, the cost of everything goes up. Part of why it's up, those percentages are a few things. Number one, the increased medical costs. Number two is we've got an aging workforce. Number three, as salaries increase, so will the workers' compensation payments that are equal to that salary increase. And quite frankly, we believe that the police department and the fire department, which have some great, amazing, wonderful people working for us, but those departments have not had under control this whole workers' comp system.
Ron, we're talking with LA City Controller Ron Galperin, and the website of note is controlpanel.la. It's well worth visiting that website. A lot of great info there. Who signs off on these injuries? We were discussing this earlier this morning, the famous or infamous Long Island Railroad scam, where north of 90% of Long Island Railroad employees in New York were leaving with disability, on full disability, and they were all playing golf on Tuesdays at Eisenhower Park. And the doctors who were signing off were employed by the union itself, and that was it. The city was just, or the MTA was just accepting blindly the reports coming in from the doctors. Who signs off on these workers' comp claims for the city of LA?
Well, we've got a whole system in place, including a number of different outside claims processing companies. But those companies, unfortunately, are not, at least as I see it, doing exactly what they need to do. Moreover, what you have is medical service providers often that have an incentive, quite frankly, to inflate certain kinds of claims. Now, having said that, there are also people who are very legitimately injured, and they've got a problem in actually getting timely treatment, and we got to address that too.
When folks read that firefighters hurt playing handball or basketball or racquetball at the fire station, lifting weights, something like that, they think, well, why is that considered part of their job? But firefighter is an unusual job because you can't in between training and all that stuff, staying in physical shape is critical in order to be able to do the job. So I get that, and you can't fight a fire until there's a fire. So there's in between maintaining equipment and training, there's downtime, and that's the time that firefighters presumably are using to stay in shape. So people can get hurt doing that. But it seems like once somebody's been hurt 18 times. Isn't there some way that an HR person could say, hey, Captain, can we have a chat about what your workout regimen is here?
Well, you shouldn't even have to wait until somebody is injured 18 times or even 8 times or well below that. One of the things that we sought to do in doing this audit is gather the data and look at what are the nature of the injuries, what is the distribution in terms of age, in terms of where these kind of injuries happen, when they're most likely to happen. And what fire department and police department have done a pretty good job of is preventing injuries that, let's say, happen in fighting crime or in fighting fires or in going out on a paramedic call. But there are those everyday, mundane kind of injuries, and that's what we are getting hit on repeatedly. Things like strains and sprains and slips and fall. And, of course, as you mentioned, the sports injuries, which I think people were really shocked to find out that 13% of the workers' comp claims for fire department, for example, have to do with sports-related injuries, including about $1.3 million suffered by firefighters on sports courts playing handball and basketball. There are other ways to exercise and stay in shape.
Is this related? Is this relegated just to the LAFD and LAPD, or are there other city employee categories employees that are also filing workers' comp claims that would fall into the same kind of general pattern?
Well, workers' comp is a problem across the board in the city, and also it's a problem across the board in jurisdictions all over the country. Having said that, the lion's share of workers' comp in the city has to do with police and fire. And if you compare police and fire workers' comp in the city of LA versus other jurisdictions, you can look to those other jurisdictions to see what they have done to get it under control.
Is there a municipality out there that's a model for how this should be done?
Well, Orange County actually made quite a bit of progress. We looked at Sacramento, for example. There are other places around the country. We can borrow sort of the best ideas from other cities and other counties to both keep our people safer and save money, and that's what the point of doing this audit was.
All right. Well, listen, we thank you for bringing it to our attention and coming on and talking to us about it. Ron Galperin, City Controller, controlpanel.la.